What happens when you close on a home?
It's D-Day, and you go to the title company and you sign more paperwork than the devil would give you for your soul.
Today we're going to talk about everything that happens on that magical day.
If I had glitter, that's where it would go.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Before you start signing your life away, make sure you sign the little like button below this video. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe and the little bell to know when we release our next video. I'm Alyse.
And I'm John, and we are with the Heart of Austin Homes team, which is powered by Keller Williams Realty. And going to a closing, well, we do about 1 or 2 closings a week, so we go to them a lot. And when you get to closing, a lot has had to go right when you get there. Like the loan is done, everything is ready, all the paperwork is stacked up, and you're ready to sign on that dotted line. Well, actually about 50 dotted lines or so.
The property is under contract, all repairs have been negotiated, all little details have been buttoned up, and all paperwork has been sent to title from the lender. Let's just say that the bulk of the paper that you're going to sign is actually related to the loan and not necessarily the legal transfer. Obviously, those are in there as well. But closings get much faster when you're paying in cash.
The worst one I've seen for a loan is 130 pages.
Oh my Lord.
And for a cash transaction, I think it goes down to about 25.
Yeah.
So you're going to meet the title officer at the title company in a really nice conference room. They're going to have lots of little free candies. If it's during COVID,
chips and water.
Yeah, all sorts of bad processed food will be presented to you.
Come with a need for caffeine.
as for the offering for the closing. Or they'll just come. They'll send a mobile notary to your home during COVID. A lot of stuff happens, on a table outside. But wherever it's going to be, you're going to be presented with a big pile of docs. Now, the title officer or the remote notary is going to explain all of the docs to you in a high-level fashion. Now, if you're going through a 100-page closing doc, then if you read every single doc, which you're welcome to do, you're going to be there almost all day.
Do you remember our first closing together and that you read most of every single doc?
Well, that was a while ago. So if you want to do that, you can. But
we were buying a house together for the first time.
I would suggest getting the docs at least a day early if you want to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. Because the bank docs are the bank docs. You're not going to be able to get in there and say, like, well, I don't like this clause. Can you change that?
Yeah.
The lender's just not really going to do that unless you're, swinging some multi-millions of dollars, which you're probably not. Most lenders just go like, nope, these are the docs. If you want the loan, you've got to sign them.
Definitely.
So just understand all the little details. If you're okay with the high bullets, then the title officer will walk you through each one and what they mean at a high level.
So like we mentioned before, you're going to spend most of your time signing loan docs that obligate you to pay the lender for the next 15 to 30 years, depending on the loan. 30 years. And so it's important to note too that you're going to have a little thing called escrow. They're going to want you to put a few months of payment for your insurance and for your tax into an account that they keep to make sure that if the house burns down and you're not making your payments, it still has insurance. And to make sure that if you're not paying your taxes to the government for the property, that they can cover it and the government won't put a lien against it. So those are 2 things to know ahead of time because they might be a bit of a surprise the day of. Otherwise, they're going to lump your insurance payment and your tax payment into your regular monthly payment as well.
Okay, one thing that surprises people sometimes when they go to buy a home is their closing costs and the prepaids. And so I remember when I first bought a house, the mortgage lender kept saying prepaids. I just didn't know what he meant. And so a prepaid is you're prepaying the taxes and insurance for the home for the upcoming year. A certain amount, not necessarily all of it, but some. So
3 to 6 month-ish.
Yeah, it could be a couple of months. It depends on the lender. So if you're prepaying that amount, then when you close, you're saying like, hey, here's enough money to pay taxes and insurance for 3 to 6 months. And then so your payment may reflect the need just to collect, 6 to 9 months of those taxes and insurance throughout the first year. And so something that can sometimes surprise people is that at the end of that first year and the beginning of the next year, depending on your terms with your bank, that number can go up because those prepaid taxes and insurance are now gone and they've been consumed in your first year of ownership. And then now in the second year, you have to start from scratch. And so every payment has to be a little bit bigger to make up for the prepaids that you paid at closing. Now, here's another fun trick, is that if you're putting down 20% or more, which is not always the case, but if you're in a strong enough position to do that, you can ask the lender to waive the prepaid requirement. Now, banks will never tell you that they can do this, but if you ask and you have more than 20% equity, they will often do it anyway. So if you don't want to prepay those accounts when you close, you can get away with not bringing as much money to closing by not prepaying your escrow account.
If you're the responsible type that is actually going to budget for your tax surprise at the end of the year, and not to mention,
you know it's coming on January 31st.
You do, but a lot of people somehow still manage to be surprised by that. So make sure you're budgeting if you do not escrow. Here is a great place to talk about what the title company does. So if you're from one of many other states like California, title and escrow are separate companies. Here, they are one company. So one of the main things that they're going to do is they're going to hold your earnest money, which is the larger check that's due when you go under contract. They're going to hold that and protect it to you and refund it if you walk away for any one of your main outs to the contract that are legitimate. They're also the people who are going to coordinate all the documents with the lender to make sure that that packet that you sign at closing has everything it needs to make it absolutely official. They're also going to check. They're going to be where you go to sign all of those documents. And they're going to check to make sure all those documents are complete and everything has been filled out properly. The fourth thing that they're going to do is they're going to take all the money from the buyer and the lender in at the end of the transaction, and they're going to disperse it out to all the right people. Obviously, most of it to the seller, to the seller's lender, to your insurance company, to the agents, to all the other people that have any sort of money coming out at the end of the transaction. And the fifth thing they're going to do,
the most important in my opinion,
is they're going to provide you with title insurance. This is insurance to say that you truly own the property, and that if anybody comes and says, actually, I owned part of that property, that they are insuring you against those situations. Or if somebody comes and says, actually, I had a lien against that property, they're insuring against those sort of situations. So it is super important for you to have title insurance.
So in that worst case scenario, if a lien did show up, then your title insurance would make it so that the title company paid for that lien instead of you.
Yay! How about you? Have you closed on a property before? What was the most stressful part for you? Let us know below.
So what about the money? So everything is held in escrow at title. And so like Alyse was saying before, all the money comes into that account and everyone gets paid out of that account. So that by the time the transaction is done, they are left with $0 in their account. Now they're going to pay themselves some out of that with their fees, but ultimately the accounting all nets out to zero. And something that's really important to mention here is wire fraud. It's a really big deal. You're going to get a lot of paperwork and a lot of warnings, a lot of people harassing you about wires being fraudulent during the transaction. And it's important because the number one way that these things get hacked or stolen is that someone hacks in and impersonates someone at title. And then that impersonated person will send you an email saying like, oh, send wire to here, or they'll send a last minute,
you got to get this over right away,
panicky email like the day before closing that says, oh my gosh, something changed. You need to send your funds to this new place.
Yep.
And then so don't listen to those.
No.
Always call the title company after they have sent you the wiring instructions in usually a secure mail format. Call them up and say, hey, is their routing number 123? Is the account number 456? And that will just make sure that you can't lose money. We've seen millions of dollars lost to wire fraud through impersonated title company agents. So don't let that happen to you.
No, definitely. There is another way. Yeah. You can also get your money over to them via cashier's check. The one issue with that is that there's fraud the other direction, i.e. the title company is going to want to call your bank and verify that that cashier's check is good and that it's not a fraudulent cashier's check. So it's frequently good to get that over to them early, either the day before or the morning of, so that they have time to call your bank in case that takes a while.
Yeah, worst case, it may delay funding, which is when everyone gets paid out, and you typically don't get keys until everyone is paid out and you are funded.
Yeah, so choices are get that check in and maybe delay closing slightly, or do a wire and be extra sure and ask about your wiring numbers that you use. Usually, buyers only get their keys after funding. So again, after title gets all of the documents together, sends it over to the lender looks through all of it, they will okay funding. And at that point, they will either send funds or they will okay the release of funds that they already sent over to title. And so that's great because that's when you can go pick up your keys. So when they say, we're funded, yay, you go get your keys. And once you get your keys, it is your house.
Now there's one little asterisk, depending on when the funding happens. If it happens early in the day, you will get the money that day. Sometimes funding will happen late in the day and the wires won't clear until the next day. So even if you're funded at 4 o'clock, well, that probably means you're gonna get your keys tomorrow. Okay, so once you're all done, a few things happen afterward. You're moving into your new home, and all of a sudden you're going to get all sorts of fun spam.
Yay!
Right? So the one really to look out for is the homestead exemption. You'll get lots of companies that will offer to file your homestead exemption for $89. Well, you really don't have to pay them that. You can do it for free. It's really simple. We'll send you the form. It's like a one-pager, and you can get it done. But new home buyers don't know, so they pay the $89.
Definitely.
So don't fall prey to that unless you really just don't want to look up the form online. To me, it's not worth it.
And one of the things that we do for our clients is once we've helped you with anything, we are your agents for life. So we are happy to answer any questions. If you get something and you're like, is this a legitimate thing? Send it over, text it over. We're there to help you out and let you know.
Yeah, you'll also get lots of other kind of good spam. There's a lot of stuff on furniture and blinds and home accessories and anything that has to do with the
20%
home.
off for you just bought your home.
Yeah, dentists will come and say like, hey, come to me now because they know you just moved there. So lots of fun stuff shows up. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. The whole thing is better than a dentist visit, and hey, you get a house out of it.
Hey! Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, we would love the little thumbs up. Also, if you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe and little bell so that you know every time we release a cool new video.
Just do it. It really only takes a second. Thanks so much. And there's also, you might check out some of our other videos on the smart way to buy a home in Austin and the costs of buying a home in Austin.
See you next time, guys.
Bye, y'all.